Grand Slam Track Philly has really exceeded my expectations. I did not think that this meet would turn out to be what it is on only day one of competition. Now, of course, one of the concerns that people had coming off of Kingston and now going into an even bigger stadium here in Franklin Field is that the crowd is not going to be able to show up, right? It's not going to look great. I think that Grand Slam Track, I don't know what they did, but to be able to fill up the home straight and to almost essentially fill up the back straight as well, this was a massive success in so many different ways. And then complement that with some amazing performances in not so great weather. This Philly day one, insane. Being in the stadium was amazing. Getting the chance to talk with the athletes. Check out all the interviews that we have on Citius Mag. Check out the post-meet recap that we did on Citius Mag as well. We went into all the different events. But let me dive in with a few different highlights from day one of Grand Slam Track here in Philly. Again, this was amazing. I feel like Grand Slam has consistently been upping the bar when it comes to the meets, and it's meet number 3 here in Philly. Now, women's 200, this to me was the highlight of the day. Melissa Jefferson-Wooden getting the win in 21.99 seconds, a personal best, and only had plus 1.1 meter per second wind behind her. So this wasn't a massive, tailwind behind her. And the way she executed the race was, I don't know, in my opinion, absolute perfection. From the gun, she was out from the blocks, led the entire field for 100 meters and did not let up an inch as she crossed the finish line again. The only athlete in the field to break the 22-second barrier. Who did she beat out? Gabby Thomas. Gabby Thomas, of course, is the Olympic champion in the 200. She won the Grand Slam track meet in the 200 for the short sprints last time in Miami. She also won it for the long sprints in Kingston. But now she got second place to Melissa Jefferson-Wooden, who's not a 200-meter runner, quote unquote. Like, speaking to Melissa, she said that she's still a 100-meter specialist despite really making progress in the 200. So for Gabby Thomas to not win this race, this was a big setback because we saw in Miami, Gabby was really disappointed that she was not able to win the overall slam, even though she had won the 200. So now going into the 200, she had to win. And the fact that she lost to Melissa Jefferson-Wooden, now with the 100 tomorrow, it's hard. Like, do we think that someone is going to beat Melissa in that 100 coming off a PB in the 200? Sure, it's of course possible, but we know that the 100 is her bread and butter. So I really think she's going to turn up there. Just makes it very complicated for Gabby to really get an overall win, and she was not happy. But shout out to Gabby Thomas for being a player, right? Being like a gamer to still dip down into the short sprints despite, it being a little bit more challenging in a sense, depending on, Gabby is an all-around sprinter. But man, Melissa Jefferson-Wooden, this was truly the race of the meet for me on day one, where again, 21.99 seconds, and the way she executed the race across the board, like she even spoke about it afterwards where, listening to her coach, and her coach told her like, yo, just get out. You have to get out. And especially being on the outside of Gabby, that meant that Melissa knew she did not want to see any her other competitors, on her inside, between Gabby, between Tamari, between Dean Asher-Smith. All those women were not able to hit up and really maintain on Melissa. So amazing race. This bodes very well for her in the 100 tomorrow and her going into the rest of the season. Melissa's about to be dangerous. So shout out to her. Men's 200 as well. This was even more dominant. Kenny Bednarek ran 19.95 seconds to not only get the win, not only run it with 0.0 wind, like literally just still wind, and get his 5th consecutive race win at Grand Slam Track. 100 to 200 in Kingston, 100, 200 in Miami, and now 200 here in Philly. He beat out the entire field by over half a second in the 200 meters. Zarnell Hughes ran 20.50 seconds. Aaron Brown also ran 20.50 seconds for 3rd place. Kenny B ran 19.95 in a 200. If there was any opportunity for someone to actually beat out Kenny, this might have been it, right? Zarnell Hughes, he had run 19.55 at the Adidas Atlanta City Games in the straight 200. So we knew that he was in some great form. People were considering like, oh, could he actually take down Kenny, or could he get significantly closer in the 200? Kenny came to dispel any myths, any doubts, any people who were, considering him to take a loss here. Like Kenny is on one, and it's really hard to say right now that Kenny is not the best sprinter in the world. Yes, you do have Akani Simbine, who's dominating the 100. You do have, I don't know. Kenny is the best sprinter in the world right now. Between the 100 and the 200, he is the best sprinter in the world. Noah Lyles is currently injured. Latila Toboho currently injured. And yes, those guys, they don't have to worry about trials, in the before World Championships. But Kenny B right now is absolutely on one. So shout out to Kenny B for really throwing down and showing up, putting on a masterclass when it comes to dominance and consistency across the board. Also, shout out to Olia, who said that I doubted Brian Lavelle. Listen, he didn't win. He didn't finish, top 4 or anything here, but he did get 5th place with 20.63. Essentially, all the guys, you had Zarnell Hughes, 20.50, Aaron Brown, 20.50, Andre DeGrasse, 20.58, Brian Lavelle, 6'3", Christian Coleman, 6'6", Onzurike, 6'7", and then Christian Miller, 7'3". So all these guys were pretty close, right? From 5'0 all the way up to 7'3", but Kenny B was in a different world. But shout out to Brian Lavelle for really showing up here. I also spoke to Christian Coleman. Check out the interview that I was able to do with him as well after the race. He said that, he's been working on things in practice and he's really just waiting for that moment for things to really come together. The Christian Coleman that we know from 2019 or even 2022, 2023, when he's made, teams to the World Championships, that's of course what we're looking for. But, he's still kind of, I don't want to say adjusting in a sense, but, he's still looking to really put things together. Though he does really appreciate the opportunity to train with, Kenny B, with Kyrie King, with, Brandon Hicklin, with Aaron Brown, with all these guys who are pushing him every single day in practice in a way that he wasn't actually receiving before, because he was kind of training by himself in a sense that he was the top sprinter in his group. So shout out to Christian Coleman. Shout out to all these guys in the field. Aaron Brown really showed up. Aaron Brown, 20.50 for 3rd. Over this field in the 200, consistency across the board. Let's move over. Women's short hurdles. This was the event that a lot of people had their eyes on because Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone dropped down to the 100 hurdles to compete with literally some of the best women in the world. But Akira Nugent took the win, 12.44 seconds, and this was not close. 12.44 into a headwind of negative 0.4 meters per second ahead of Tia Jones, who ran 12.60. Like, this was not close. 0.16 seconds gap between Akira and Tia Jones. Behind Tia, Megan Tapper, 12.66. 4th place, Tonia Marshall, 12.68. So the top 4, 12.44 all the way to 12.68. And then Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, 12.70 seconds for 5th place. So I think I had predicted her for 6th place overall. She was able to get the 5th place. And she actually said in her post-race interview that she actually felt like she had a good start and she executed relatively well. Now, she did hit the 9th hurdle, but 12.70 seconds for Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone is actually her 2nd fastest performance of all time. So to run that into a headwind and to run it in relatively cool conditions, it wasn't great out there. This was a really great performance for Sydney, and I think bodes well going into the 100 tomorrow, where that's going to be, significantly better for her as it relates to her competition amongst the rest of the field. I'm really excited to see how that plays out. But Akira Nugent, 12.44. Akira Nugent, I was kind of looking back at her stats. Outside of the Olympic Games where she hit a hurdle and was a DNF at the Paris Olympics last year, in every single race that she's been in, since 2023, she has never finished in lower than 4th place. She's either, won a race, 2nd place, 3rd place, 4th place in every single race that she's been in. I think maybe there was one qualifying round or something like that. But she is so consistent considering how, the women in the 100-meter hurdles are going back and forth and how, tough it is to predict who is actually going to come out on top in any of these 100-meter hurdle fields. So shout out to Akira Nugent, and she's not going to compete at the Grand Slam track meet in Los Angeles. So because Jamaican Trials is going on that same weekend. So I think she really wanted to show out here. And now going into the 100, I think Akira is going to be the favorite. Now, like I said, Sydney is definitely going to be a massive threat, but think about the confidence level that Akira is displaying here, getting this win and now going into the 100. A lot of people were asking her like, oh, can you run sub 11? Can you run sub 11? Maybe she can, but I don't even know if that necessarily matters. What is important to me here is that she was able to beat the field, beat a competitive field. Now that gives her motivation going into the 100. Remember, in Miami, she finished 3rd in that 100-meter hurdles behind Masai Russell and behind Tia Jones. Now that she got the win in the 100 hurdles, that's probably even a bigger confidence booster going into her event that she's definitely more capable of actually beating out this entire field like she did in Miami. But it's going to be close with her and Sydney. So shout out to Akira Nugent. And what's really interesting is Both Akira Nugent and Megan Tapper, when I spoke to them afterwards, they actually said that they felt the presence of Sydney here. Not necessarily like as they were running in the race, but just the idea that Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone dropped down and was in the race running the 100 hurdles with them. Both of them actually noted that it was like, whoa, like Sydney is running with us. So that's an interesting dynamic that did play out. But regardless, both of them, you know, Akira Nugent got the win, Megan Tapper got third, like both of them showed up and showed out. Shout out to those women's hurdles. Excited for the 100 tomorrow. Now, let's move on. We got the men's hurdles very quickly. Upset with Jamal Britt running 13.08 seconds, 100th of a second off his personal best of 13.07 from last year. And it beats out Cordell Tinch, world leader right now, number 4 all time, and beats out Trey Cunningham, who has run 13 flat this year and was undefeated up to this point. This was an amazing competition for Jamal Britt, and I think this makes it complicated for anyone else to potentially get the win in the 100 because Jamal Britt is, or not necessarily in the 100, but overall in Grand Slam, because Jamal Britt is one of the stronger 100-meter racers in this field. Or 100-meter athletes, right? He's run 10.20 seconds on 2 occasions, specifically most recently at the Miami Grand Slam track meet, and if he's already running 13.08, that means he's in some excellent form. That means he's been getting better. So it's going to be hard. I could imagine, Trey Cunningham getting the win in the 100, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to say that Jamal Britt is going to get lower than, second place in this 100. Like, I don't know. Cordell Tinch could be a very, very strong spoiler in the 100 because though he doesn't have a 10.2 or 10.1 personal best, he has run a windy time of 10.2 seconds, I think, this year. So he could really set things up, and he's a long jump. Like, we know what Cordell Tinch's capabilities are, but Jamal Britt, massive, massive, massive upset in these hurdles. Now, let's talk about the let's talk about the women's 400 because this turned out to actually be a relatively competitive race. We saw Marley Paulino and Sawi Nasser going head to head and coming off the curve to the last 100, Sawi Nasser was actually leading the field. And you can see that for the most of the race, Sawi Nasser was in a great position. She was executing like she had done in some of her previous races, specifically in that Kingston race. Of course, not hitting some of those splits where she was going on to 48 seconds, but she was really leading coming off that curve. But Marlita Paulino was close enough where she was not going to let this out of her hands. Coming off the curve, right behind Sawi Nasser, Paulino with that crazy arm carriage, right? Just I love when Paulino was just digging deep down that home straight. She came away with the win, 49.12 seconds to get the win in a season's best as well for her this year, right? So she had run 49.3, she'd run 49.2, now she runs 49.1, making slow and steady progress in 2025. This is excellent. I don't think that Paulino, I'm never gonna bet on Paulino to lose a race this year. I'm just not. Especially coming off of Kingston, where she lost that race to not only Sawa, but also Gabby. Marlene Paulino is not losing a race this year. It's gonna be hard for me to bet against her. So shout out to Paulino, and tomorrow in the 200, she is clearly the class of this field. Sawa Nasser, she finished second initially, but she was later disqualified because coming off the curve into the home straight, she actually cut into Nikisha Price's lane. Now, she did have enough space ahead of Nikisha Price, so she didn't necessarily impede her, but she, was disqualified for running out of her lane. So, really disappointing to see that despite her performance, but it is what it is. So that brought Nikisha Price up to second place overall with her 50.04. If you actually check my predictions, I predicted Marlene Paulino, Sawi Nasser, Nikisha Price, and Isabella Whitaker for 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Turns out, and actually I think I predicted Alexis Holmes for number 5 as well. So turns out that actually came into fruition. Now, I'm not a fortune teller or anything like that, and of course Sawi Nasser was disqualified, but what I found really interesting is that Nikisha Price does seem to be getting much closer into that good form. Yes, it's only 50.04 seconds that Price ran, but she is really showing up here, and she has trials at the end of June. She's not going to be at Grand Slam Track Los Angeles, so she is of course ramping things up. Excited to see how she does translate this performance over to trials, where seems like very likely she's going to be the favorite and going to make the team to the World Championships for Jamaica, but also can she get back to that 48.5 form that we saw from last year? So shout out to Nikisha Price, and Isabella Whitaker, right? 50.16 seconds, coming up for another strong performance in Grand Slam track from what she did in Miami. I actually asked her after the race because she was now wearing an On kit, which she wasn't in Miami, and she actually confirmed that she is now, working with and sponsored by On, whereas after her NCAA career, when she had an NIL deal with On, she was actually kind of shopping around to see, what other opportunities might be there, but she eventually did go with On. I don't think it was like fully announced yet, but she did say it in the interview, so you can check that out on the Citius Mag YouTube channel. Shout out to Isabella Whitaker for her performance here. Men's 400, Matthew Hudson-Smith. This was a dominant race. This was like low-key, not even close in any capacity. Matthew Hudson-Smith, 44.51 seconds, the only athlete to break 45 seconds in the race. Kayla McRae was second, 45.04. Dream Richards, 45.05. Dream Richards is in a good position because he can probably win the 200 like he did in Miami. And then Matthew Hudson-Smith could finish a little bit lower. It'll be tough. It'll be tricky. But if Dream is able to drop another really great performance, he might be dangerous. But Matthew Hudson-Smith, coming off injury in Miami at the last slam a month ago, right? Not doing well in that 200. He picked things up in that 400 to get third place overall in Miami. But now to get the win here, don't forget, Matthew Hudson-Smith was the Grand Slam track winner in Kingston. He was the first Grand Slam track winner in the long sprints. He really wants to look back. And now 44.51, amazing performance for Matthew Hudson-Smith. Excited to see how he translates into the 200. Because I've been saying, I feel like he has a lot of untapped potential in that 200 that might be realized when we do get to Grand Slam track. He has a personal best of 20.34 seconds. So yes, it's not 20.2, it's not 20.1, it's not sub 20, but I do think he has the capabilities of finishing maybe top 2, maybe top 3, between Dream and also Alex Ogando. But, we'll see how that does actually play out. Also, Steven Gardner, he finally finished a 400-meter race and unfortunately lost the race. He finished last place here, running 46.88. I spoke to him after, didn't get a full interview, but I just, kind of had a side conversation with him. He actually said that he's been dealing with a foot injury over the past couple weeks, and he had a little wrapping around his foot. I'm not sure if this came up on the broadcast, but he was telling me that it's been, some setbacks. It was good enough for him to be able to run and compete. So we'll see him in the 200 as well. But that's been a real big setback for Steven Gardner. It sucks to see someone like Steven, the Olympic champion, the former world champion, the former world silver medal, 43.48 second personal best. Like, Steven Gardner is one of the greatest 400 meter athletes of all time. So to see him, deal with some of these setbacks, it's really, really tough. But shout out to Steven Gardner. Shout out to Matthew Hudson-Smith though. Don't sleep. And don't sleep on Dream Richards. He might be dangerous here. Now, let's finish off with a few of the hurdles, the long hurdles. Women's long hurdles, Anna Cockrell from the outside lane, 54.04 seconds, dominant performance. She said that, she felt comfortable. She was on the outside. She wanted to make sure she executed, didn't have to worry about anyone on her inside, and in general is not too close, right? Second place, Jasmine Jones, her season's opener for 2025. This is her first race since the Olympic final last year in Paris, if I'm correct. She might have run one race after that. Someone could fact check me in the comments, but 54.65 for Jasmine. She's not stopping in any capacity. She's picking up right where she left off. Really, really excited to see her, perform like this here. Anjanette Knight, 54.86. Dalilah Muhammad, 54.88. So we saw some good performances across the board. Shamir Little, unfortunately, dropped out, I think after, hurdle 6, which was really, really tough for her. But, shout out to all these women. I'm looking to see what Anjanette Knight does in that 400. I'm really excited to see what she does. She ran really well at the Miami Grand Slam track meet, got second overall behind Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. She might be dangerous here. Now, Jasmine Jones and Anna Cockrell, they're in a sense unproven over 400. Jasmine Jones has never run a 400 meter race in her career. She's run 4x4s, while she was at USC, but Anna Cockrell, she's run a best this year of 52.44 in the 400. So could she step up? But I don't know. Anjanette Knight, she's on one. Anjanette Knight is one to look out for. Don't sleep on her, when we're talking about the 400 meters. Now, finally, men's long hurdles, Alessandro Santos, 48.11. He was kind of like cruising. He was talking about how, the Franklin Field track is a little bit different because the inside lanes are, it's not 400 meters exactly. So they have to, start at different places, but then that affects kind of the entire track. He was saying that, how the hurdles were set up, it was a little bit different. Not to say it was wrong or like incorrectly set up, but he was just not as used to the structure of the track and on all of that. So kind of got messed up a little bit in the race, but he said that once he got, clear in the home straight, he just like kind of cruised it in, got the win. In 48.11. Trevor Bassett ran 48.25 for second place. This was an excellent performance for Trevor Bassett. Season's best for him, getting closer to that 47, which he's of course run, in his career. I'm excited to see how Trevor Bassett does do. And Trevor Bassett is a very strong 400-meter runner. Not necessarily better than Alison Dos Santos or even than Chris Robinson, who got third here in 48.76. But Trevor Bassett is one who's, if he's in good form, which we know he is based on his 400-meter hurdles, he could really step things up and do some damage in that 400. So look out for Trevor Bassett. Look out for all these guys. I mean, shout out to Alison Dos Santos. He's about to sweep this slam again. If today was any indication, but man, this was a good one. So overall, I really did love Philly on day one. Being in the stadium, being on the ground and talking with the athletes and experiencing the energy, experiencing, just the crowd. Like, this was, again, this exceeded my expectations. I'm so glad that we've been seeing progress with Grand Slam track from Kingston to Miami, now to Philly. Like, someone in the comments can tell me, but if the main home straight was filled, like that entire side of the track was filled, with fans in the stands. Then on the other side, the back straight was also at minimum, it was half filled, if not 75% filled. Like, yes, the top layers were not filled. Like, of course, those weren't going to be filled up or anything. But to see this stadium, listen, shout out to Grand Slam track. I am very impressed. I'm excited to see how day two goes. And if there's even more people out there. The athletes are clearly showing up and the athletes are clearly taking this seriously. Amazing performances. Let me know, go in the comments, let me know what your favorite performance from day one of Grand Slam track was. Was it Melissa Jefferson? Was it Kenny B, Matthew Hudson Smith, Marley DiPaolino, maybe Jamal Britt, right? Who knows? Let me know in the comments. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Always do appreciate y'all. Thanks for watching.